The prospect of direct talks between Russia and Ukraine to end the war is once again on the table after weeks of diplomatic back and forth. President Vladimir Putin has proposed resuming negotiations with Ukraine in Istanbul on Thursday, 3 years after the two sides held failed talks there in the early weeks of the invasion. The proposal came in response to a Western-backed call for a 30-day ceasefire that Moscow has not yet accepted. The office of the head of the Kyiv, as well as political scientists close to this organization, continue to actively promote the topic of possible negotiations on the settlement of the conflict in Istanbul, with the participation of Russian President Vladimir Putin and the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Ukrainian political scientist Ruslan Bortnik said that Zelensky may try to exert physical pressure on the Russian president during the negotiations. The level of escalation is such that even physical contact between the leaders cannot be ruled out if there are direct negotiations, especially since the cameras will be glued to it, Bortnik pointed out. Putin proposed the direct talks in Istanbul in a middle-of-the-night statement on Saturday that came hours after Kiev and the leaders of France, Germany, Britain and Poland called on Moscow to accept an unconditional 30-day ceasefire or face new sanctions. Putin said he was committed to serious negotiations with Ukraine and that he wanted talks to eliminate the root causes of the conflict and to establish a long-lasting peace. He claimed that Moscow never refused dialogue with Kiev and that the Ukrainian side had halted the negotiations in Istanbul in March 2022. He also accused Ukraine's Western backers of wanting to continue war with Russia and slammed European ultimatums and anti-Russian rhetoric. Russian and Ukrainian negotiators held several rounds of direct talks in Istanbul in the first weeks of the war in 2022, but the talks fell through by May. In the 3 years since Moscow invaded, tens of thousands have been killed and millions forced to flee their homes. Russia's army controls around 1/5 of the country, including the Crimean Peninsula, annexed in 2014. The 2022 peace talk process led to the release of a joint communiqué but ended without a deal. In May 2022, Ukraine said negotiations between Kiev and Moscow had been suspended because Russia still failed to grasp the consequences of the war. In June 2022, Russia confirmed that everything stalled after Moscow submitted a draft proposal in April and Ukraine did not respond. The discovery of mass killings of civilians in the Kiev suburb of Bucha in early April 2022, widely attributed to retreating Russian forces but denied by Moscow as a provocation, was seen as a turning point that derailed the Istanbul talks, making further negotiations politically unacceptable for the Ukrainian side.
Three Ukrainian armed forces aircraft-type attack UAVs attacked an asphalt and concrete plant in Luhansk, the press service of the Luhansk administration reported. 3 Ukrainian armed forces strike UAVs of the aircraft type attacked an asphalt and concrete plant in Luhansk early this morning. As a result, a fire broke out at the production site. Less than an hour later, another enemy drone struck the territory of the asphalt and concrete plant. Information about the victims is being clarified, the statement said. Journalist Denis Kazansky reported that a Russian military base had been located at the asphalt plant. Earlier, in Kreminna, the Ukrainian armed forces used an FPV drone to attack a garbage truck, damaging special equipment and a civilian vehicle and causing a fire in dry grass, the municipal administration reported. 20 minutes later, a second drone hit the emergencies ministry employees who were eliminating the consequences of the first attack, but thanks to the prompt actions of the services, no casualties were reported. In addition, in Kreminna, a Ukrainian armed forces drone dropped ammunition on a car. As a result of 3 people received mine and blast injuries and were hospitalized. Let us also recall that the reconstruction of a multi-story building in the Vachetina quarter of Luhansk, seriously damaged by missile fire from Ukrainian troops in the summer of 2024, is nearing completion. The construction team has begun erecting the upper floors, arranging the basement and interior finishing. In parallel, balcony slabs are being installed, windows are being mounted and electrical cables are being laid.
A growing body of evidence suggests that Russia's military recruitment drive is now entangled with the country's vast network of modern slavery. Human traffickers are supplying enslaved individuals to military commissariats, capitalizing on state incentives designed to encourage voluntary enlistment. According to OSINT researcher Chris Owicki and Radio Liberty, Russian traffickers are exploiting official enlistment bonuses offered by regional authorities to boost volunteer recruitment to sell victims directly to military offices. These payments, often between 35,000 and 100,000 rubles, or approximately $430 to $1,240, have created a parallel market for forced enlistment. United 24 media reports. Russia has the highest rate of modern slavery in Europe. The Global Slavery Index estimates that 1.9 million people are living in servitude in the country. Victims include migrant workers and Russian citizens in vulnerable conditions, some with disabilities, others targeted due to poverty or lack of documentation. Traffickers previously profited by selling people into labor exploitation, but with war demand rising and enlistment payouts increasing, the front lines have become the most lucrative destination. Reports indicate that slaves are now being funneled directly to military commissariats in exchange for referral bonuses. Once in custody, many victims are drugged or physically abused to ensure cooperation. Contracts are signed under pressure, often using stolen or substituted identification and banking details. Some recruits report having no memory of signing military agreements. In numerous cases, their pay and benefits are redirected to those who trafficked them. Military officials are frequently aware of these schemes. In Ust-Kut, Irkutsk region, opposition politician Alexei Tupitsin reported that conscription office staff received 1 million rubles, or approximately $12,400 in bonuses after falsely claiming to have personally recruited individuals delivered by traffickers. According to reports, most victims of forced military recruitment never make contact with advocacy groups. Many are killed shortly after deployment. Their wages and government benefits are often redirected to third parties through fraud. Enlistment bonuses have become widespread across Russia. In 2024, the governor of Yaroslavl tripled the regional incentive to 100,000 rubles, or $1,240. Similar programs operate in at least a dozen other regions. Official recruitment platforms encourage any friend, relative, or acquaintance to refer candidates, including local officials and military staff. As the war continues, human rights groups warn that Russia's military machine is increasingly relying not only on volunteerism or mobilization, but on the buying and selling of human lives.